have special needs students in your Sunday school classes in your neighborhoods that you meet. And this is just, this class, the purpose of it is, you can turn off that tape while I'm not going to watch my perfume. We're going to deal with it, okay? And I'd like for us today to learn a little bit more about it. This is just a very basic introductory topic. There are college classes that go in depth on just about everything that we say today. You can go and take a college class on it. So we're just going to skim across the surface and hopefully help you to understand a little bit more what your kids with special needs, what their families, and what your church is going through with this issue. And I'm so honored to have with me today Christina Bishon. Last night when I introduced her, I was so excited to introduce her. I didn't tell everything about her. She was in 4th grade when we first met. And so that was just a few years ago. And she has since grown up to be a beautiful Christian woman, got married a year ago. Her husband performed the wedding. And she's graduated from college with her master's in... Well, that's beyond the master's. I was leading up to that. Okay. She is a specialist in education and school psychology, which means when I, as a special ed teacher, need to find out whether or not a child qualifies to have special ed services, she is the main person that goes through and does all the big evaluations that I'm not allowed to do. She's qualified. So she is a vast supply of knowledge for us today. And I am so honored that she could be with us today. And she has a really cool activity that we're all going to take part in right now. Christina.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, we're going to do a little activity, as Cheryl said. Our purpose today is to kind of learn more about children with special needs, and that's a really broad term. That can include everything from physical impairments, children who can't see very well or hear very well or whatever. So a lot of emotional kinds of things. The kids that come to our children's ministry and they're hungry, they haven't eaten, they don't know where their next meal is coming from, or they're angry, they're so mad because things have happened at home and they just don't know how to deal with it. So what we're going to try to simulate for you today is just kind of get something on the paper what that feels like a little bit. So what I need you to do is get in pairs. So just, whoever you're closest to, find a buddy and buddy up. Everybody got a pair? Back row, say pairs. Okay, everybody got a pair? Do you want to just get another group of
Who does not have a partner? Anybody?
Oh,
there we go.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can have one group of 3. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, what I need you to decide in your pair, in our group of 3, I need you to decide who's 1 and who's 2. So if you ever want to look at somebody next to you and say you're number 2, here's your time. Okay. If you're 1, raise your hand. Okay, Cheryl, this paper. Number 1. People with their hands raised. If you're number 1, you're the person that's going to give directions. Okay? So in just a moment, I'm going to pass out some other stuff for the number 2 people. But if you're number 1, you're going to read the directions on this page to the person that's that you're paired with. Now, there's a lot of us, and there's a lot of stuff going on, so we're going to have to kind of whisper. So just keep that in mind. When she gets done with that. In this basket, I have all kinds of different, we're going to call them loosely handicaps, okay? And if you're a number 2, you're going to draw out a handicap. So what you might find in your bag is you may find something that's going to blindfold you, okay? It's goggles, there's cotton in there so you can't see, so you'll put those on. Or you may find socks in there, you can put those on your hands so you can't use your hands very well. Or you may have earplugs. You put those in so you can't hear very well. Or you may just find a piece of paper that says, repeat continually, I'm hungry. So if you get that one, you're going to whisper to yourself the whole time the other person is speaking to you, I'm hungry, or I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. Does that make sense? Okay, so 2s, if you don't hear, raise your hand. These are no particular order, just reach down in there and grab one. What? TikTok?
Yeah, I tried it.
It's down in there. There's some other times we didn't stir them up very well. Okay. Okay, so you can begin. Oh, you need some? Okay. Miss Cheryl's got the basket. Okay, so once you get your, whatever your handicap is, go ahead and put that on. If it's the glasses or the socks or whatever, go ahead and start that. And then once you're ready, number one, you can read the directions at the top. Before you get together, you and your partner are going to make something out of paper. So that blank sheet of paper needs to go to the person who's got the brown paper bag. Please read the directions step by step. This is important. You may read the directions as often as necessary. However, you may provide no additional verbal or physical prompts, okay? You can repeat as many times as you need to, but you can't physically help them, or you can't, say it differently or anything like that, okay?
Any
Go
questions?
ahead, you can begin.
Any questions? You may begin.
Where do we put the paper, like on our chair?
On your chair, whatever. Just work it out.
Position the paper so that the shortest side of our pair of so that the shortest side is our parallel with the okay, fold the paper from top to bottom. Bring the two opposite ends together. I can't do it. Cease the crease but folded it. Fold the paper from top to bottom. Fold the paper from side to side. Two opposite ends together. Unfold the paper once.
Remember, if you got one of those sheets of paper that said I'm angry or I'm hungry, you repeat that continually to yourself out loud, even while they're talking to you.
Fold the top left tip from side to side. Fold the top left tip so it touches the middle of the chair. That's what it says. The top left tip. Cease the diameter in the middle. The paper should look like a triangle. So the top left tip so that it touches the middle. Flip the paper over. Fold the upper tip so it touches the middle crease. Fold one bottom, fold the other tip so that it touches the middle crease. Insert both thumbs into the middle of the paper for 2 hours.
Can you see anything?
If necessary, tuck the edges into the flat.
Fold one bottom tip upward. Flip the paper over.
Fold the square
Bottom flap upward and crease to hold it in. Your paper should look like this.
and lift one bottom flap upward.
Insert both thumbs into the middle of the folded paper and pull it out. The middle of the folded paper.
Fold the other bottom flap upward. You should now have a quarter triangle.
Necessary, tuck the At this point, the paper should look like this.
Insert both thumbs in the middle of the triangle and pull outward.
It doesn't look like a square.
Crease all the folds and then your paper should look like a square. Hold the outer tip with your thumb.
They're not even wide.
Pull the two tips outward all the way. And you pull the tip all the way flat out. Nothing. I was too angry to make anything. I was thinking like maybe the same.
Yeah, worked out real well.
Did you like it?
I'm good.
You got the artistic thing.
How are we doing? What's the song?
I'm gonna tell you in just a minute. Very first direction.
Flip it over. Hold the other bottom flap upward.
Just like everybody else. Okay, is everybody finished or do you need a few more minutes? Okay, hold your pieces of paper up. Let's see what everybody got. Okay, let's see. You're close. Okay, you got about halfway there. You're close.
I think I undid half of mine.
Let's see, you're close. All right. A lot of people have just kind of paper a lot of that. Let me tell you what you're supposed to have. When you get finished, the very last step is that open this. This is where you want to start. Open it up. We're all on this boat together and we're trying to get somewhere. Okay? All right. Now, as Cheryl said, by trade, I'm a psychologist, so I have to ask you the question, how did this make you feel? Make you feel dumb? Okay, what else? Frustrated? What was frustrating? Couldn't process it. Right. What were you going to say?
I was going to say I was the one in the direction that felt helpless because she kept saying she was so
felt helpless
angry, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Good, good. Do you think our kids feel that way sometimes? How many times do we get into our children's ministry and we're trying to get all kinds of things done with them, but then for those kids who have those special needs, it's hard for them to get up. It's hard for them to understand exactly what it is that we're expecting of them, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Ms. Cheryl's going to come and tell us some different things and some different ways that we can try to help with that.
Thank you, Christine. Wonderful. Now, I apologize. There's nothing like last minute. I was standing there and all of a sudden I thought, oh dear, I didn't make my copies. So I ran to make copies real quick. I didn't know how many would be here the first session. I've only got 15 copies made. So if you want a copy, I'll make them and have them at my table, at Steve's table. Okay, if you don't get a copy, I'll make one. Okay, I think there's 25 people here, so I'll make 10 more copies and I'll have them at the table by lunchtime. Okay, so just come by, say I need a copy of Cheryl's class, and they'll give it to you. And I apologize.
Because we're in the same church. There's the picture.
Special needs ministry. In our local churches, we have so many ministries out there for different groups of people. Young marrieds, nursery, divorced people, single moms. All of these different ministries that are targeting smaller audiences. So why not in our local church have a ministry that meets the needs of people with special needs? Okay? Think of your church and all the different ministries that your church has. Does anybody have something else that I did not name?
What's Wesley?
A widow's ministry. Anybody else have something else different that I've not named?
We have an ABB child, a woman.
Uh-huh.
He's very,
He's out.
well, we have one person that works with him alone.
Oh, there you go. We're going to talk about that. Very good. Any other types of just special ministries that you have at your church? My home church has a ministry where they are reaching out to people with alcoholism and trying to get them to rebuild their lives. You have a deaf ministry. There you go. Special needs. Addiction ministry. Okay? Matthew 8:2-3. Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was clean. Jesus still works in miracles today, as he did back then. And I know that many times children with special needs or families who have children with special needs would pray this. And God does heal. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe later, maybe in eternity. Jesus will heal. Let's just look at some basic facts about children and special needs. 7.7% of children aged 3 to 21 years of age have a disability. Now, these are from a class that I took 10 years ago. And so the numbers have changed somewhat when I went back and looked through my notes. And 10% of school kids have a disability. I was talking to Christina, who keeps more up to date on the statistical end of things, and she said that it just depends on the area. If you're familiar with that school in New Jersey that was closed down, did you hear about that whole school that was closed down? 23% of their population was special needs, which is huge. And Christina said that right now it looks like most areas it's about 15%. So if you've got 100 kids coming to your church, 15 of them are identified special needs. Now there's probably more that are not identified. And there's different types of disabilities that are listed there on your paper. I'm not going to go across those. Some of those happen more often. You'll see them throughout your student population more. Some of them you don't see very much at all. When we're talking about children with special needs, there are different things that you might see in children that are prevalent in most areas of special needs. Hyperactivity with a short attention span, distractibility and impulsiveness. When we're talking about hyperactivity with short attention span, has anybody here experienced that with any of the kids you work with? Raise your hand. Okay, I just want to know if we're hitting it, if you're experiencing that. Distractibility and impulsiveness, kids that don't think, they just do it. And you're standing there in front of them and all of a sudden they're listening to people tapping and they're wondering what's going on up there. Poor visual and motor skills, poor large muscle, and fine motor coordination. When it's talking about visual skills, probably about 18 years ago, I'm guessing about 18 years ago in our ministry, we were having little kids VBS for like ages 3 to 6. Okay, so it was farmer McDonald man or something. Did you come and help in there? Okay. So when we're there at this VBS with these very little kids, okay, preschool to kindergarten, first grade, very little kids, all of a sudden we heard this screaming, screaming, screaming. And this child was in the back. This was taking place at a preschool. And they had piled up all the toys behind a curtain from the preschool so that we could have our VBS out in the gym area. We could hear this child screaming, screaming, screaming. The workers are going, we don't know what to do, we don't know what to do. And Steve's like, what is going on? It's Ashley. She's over there behind the thing screaming. And so he goes over and he's like, why is she screaming? What's going on? She's deaf. She can't hear. Nobody told me. We didn't know we had a child here who was deaf. Why didn't her mother come tell us? We didn't know. And she can't hear. She's only 3 or 4, so she's not developed sign language skills. She has no communication. You can't even call her through there and say, Ashley, come here. So my husband crawled in over those tiny types plastic playhouses, climbing up and over and hanging down one, and all he can do is bang on the wall of one so that the vibration, she could feel them. And finally she came out, and he gave her the only sign that he knew, I love you, like Ronnie Caldwell did in his song today, I love you.
Yeah.
Jesus love, okay?
When he was doing that, I said, sign language.
Yes, sign language. So he looked at her, she knew that, and she gave him her sign name, which was Ashley, and he did this, Ashley, I love you. And she clung to his leg like a little kid would, sat on his foot basically, and clung there, and that's the way he taught the rest of the day. And as she started to get anxious, he looked down and do this to her, Ashley, I love you. That was many, many years ago. She then left us and went to a special school, Kentucky School for the Deaf, where they were able to teach her communication because we didn't know how to communicate. She hadn't learned those skills like your 2-year-olds walking around babbling. They're learning language. They're learning to communicate.
They're hearing.
Yes, she couldn't. So she's at the School for the Deaf. She learned to communicate. Her mom called one day and said, Ashley can do sign language now. She understands. I'm bringing her to church. So she came to church that Sunday. We had an interpreter, and the interpreter, Steve, taught the entire group of church kids. There was probably, 80, 100 kids in there. He taught all of them, but the lesson was focused on Ashley. Everything he did was focused on what Ashley needed to hear because she had never heard. And the interpreter was just interpreting away, and Ashley sitting there listening to the interpreter, looking at Steve, looking at the interpreter. She went like this. Many times she went like this, and the interpreter was yes, 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 like this. And finally, at the invitation, she came forward. She got saved. And Steve asked the interpreter what she was talking about. And she was saying, you mean for me? He did that for me. She had never heard. So we had a special needs ministry going on that day at our church with that little Ashley, and she got saved. She then continued going to KSD for a while, but she moved back eventually and continued coming to our church. So, it doesn't have to be a great, big, drawn-out ministry. You can start small and build, and we started small and we continue building. So, children with visual needs. You never know what you're going to run into. Other common symptoms that you might have is rapid and excessive changes of mood and reasoning, problem with social interaction, inconsistent, unpredictable behavior. Now, I'm looking at this. I'm a school teacher. I teach 4th, 5th grade students with special needs. Christina is a school psychologist. You work with elementary and middle schools. You work with any high school? No. Okay. I did do middle school, 8th grade students with special needs. And when I went to the elementary school, I was kind of hesitant. I thought, what is this going to be like? Because I've worked with 8th graders, and I tell you, I love 8th graders. They're an odd bunch of people. I truly believe that they take their brains out and deposit them in the brain bucket at the beginning of the school year, and they might remember to pick up their brain at the end of the year. I don't know. Because they can just be really crazy people at times. Hormones are going nutso, things are going on. But I wondered, what's elementary going to be like? And in my mind, I had developed this picture. Rainbows and butterflies and sunshine and singing little songs, stuff like that. It's not like that. These poor children, many of them bring so much baggage from home that has absolutely wrought destruction in their little hearts and in their little minds that they don't know how to deal with. And they bring it to school. And I'm supposed to sit there and teach them the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. when they don't know what's going to happen at home. Who gives a rip about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s? Christine and I were talking earlier, and I said, you know, I've always had this feeling that if I could just pick up my children from my special needs children at school and put them in a good Christian environment, how many of them would no longer be special needs? And in my mind, I'd always thought half. Now, when Christina said, oh, much more than that. She's much more knowledgeable than me, and I'm going with what she says. You change the home environment, you change the outcome on the kid. Mild mental disability, much of it caused by the home environment. Emotional behaviors, mental issues, many of them caused by the home environment. If you've been abused or neglected, it's going to affect you. And little kids don't have those coping skills built in. And this is what they come to school with, and this is what they come to your churches and your Sunday schools for. They can't help it. They get angry, and it's just out of the blue. You don't know, you might not know what that trigger is. I keep sharing with you because you're not a class. Would you like to share with about the girl and the cookies, okay?
Absolutely. Christmas. In the past, I worked with a little girl, tell you her name or anything, but she came to our school as second grade, fourth grade, and I'm sorry, she came to our school first grade, she was fourth grade. So we had her for 3 Christmases. We got her right before Christmas, 3 Christmases ago. And all of a sudden, you know, things were going pretty well. She had some very unique special needs. She was what we would consider, Kentucky calls emotional behavior disability, that the kids who were acting out on the list. She had some pretty significant problems. But we were doing pretty good. We put some things in place, and she was having pretty good first few weeks before Christmas hit. And, you know, everything in schools becomes Christmas trees, and they're planning their winter party, or whatever they call it, choose to call it, maybe, and, you know, the teachers are bringing out their Christmas coloring sheets, and they're doing all kinds of Christmas stuff, like Christmas carols were playing. Well, the first Christmas carol she heard, she was a total meltdown. And it was just screaming and squalling and just horrible, horrible, horrible. We didn't figure out that year what had happened. The next Christmas, the same thing happened, and we started asking some really hard questions. What we found out is that this little girl at Christmas time, a few years before that, had been assaulted sexually. So Christmas was hard for her. Christmas was very hard for her. And so, you know, when most of us think back on Christmases, we think about, you know, how great it was and waking up Christmas morning and you know, the Christmas tree was beautiful and all that, but that's not what she thinks of when she thinks of Christmas. She thinks it has to give her so her mother can support her during her life. So Christmas was good for her. You know, the things that we try to do to make Christmas feel better in the story is that, you know, we got her gifts and got her new clothes and toys and all those things she wanted to know for her. Because Christmas for her means something very different than what Christmas means.
So we just don't know, Christine. We just don't know. And that's only one of the stories that we could share of things that has happened that she knows about that I know about. Okay? It's just one of the things. And we don't know what our kids are coming to school with, what they're coming to your Sunday school with. You're home, bright, cheerful, happy, sure you fuss, sure you fume. My kids drove me crazy, but nothing like many of the things that are happening at home. Okay. So this is just to help you to realize why this child might be acting out. You might not know, but this might be the reason, and it helps you to understand it. Now, not only does it impact the child and the way they behave, but it's a great impact on the families. When my daughter entered kindergarten, you know both my kids, they're here. When my daughter entered kindergarten, I had not started back to college or anything. And they do a hearing screening and a vision screening, right? They do that with your kids, okay. Her hearing screening came back that there was a problem. My heart jumped into my throat. I mean, immediately, there's a problem. What's wrong with my baby? What's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong? Went back to have her scream again, fine, no problems. But for that brief amount of time, my heart was in my throat. What is wrong with my baby? So I can only imagine what families are going through that have their children diagnosed with some issue. It can be very traumatic. Shock, denial, disbelief, anger, guilt, and finally acceptance. It's so hard on families that if your child is diagnosed with autism, statistics show that within 3 years, your family is going to experience divorce. Plus, there's a high rate of, or even higher than in normal society, a very high rate of divorce for families with special needs. It causes a great impact on everything that's going on in the family, emotional, financial, mental. It's a great impact on the family. As a teacher, I talk to parents who are sometimes at the end of their ropes. A parent who has a child that goes home at night and the child has tried hard to hold it together because they've got issues. They've tried hard to hold it together all day. And they go home that night and they let it out. And they scream and they scream and they scream because they're angry and they're releasing it all and they destroy things. I go home and I'm upset if my husband's lady suffers cold, as Christina was saying. And that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what families of children with special needs are going through. Many roles of parents, just regular parents, with kids without special needs. But when you add that special needs into the mix, it causes a whole new stream of things, challenges that these parents have to face. Emotionally draining. Oh, here, I've got a story I'd like to read to you. Welcome to Harney. How many of you have children? Imagine with me that you are planning a trip, a vacation. I'm going to read this little story about this person that planned a trip. Welcome to Harney. I am often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability, to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience, to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. Well, it's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean, Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland. And there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So, you must go out and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while, you catch your breath, you look around, and you begin to notice that Holland has windows, and Holland has tulips, and Holland even has Rembrandts. And everyone you know is busy, coming and going from Italy. And they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever go away. Because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to go to Italy, you may never, ever be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Harney. I found out in this book that you can find on the table out there. We've only got a few copies left if you're interested. I think if you're interested in special needs, this might help you. But I really enjoyed that story. Therefore, I take pleasure in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. When we're talking about families, my husband comes from a family of a child with a disability. He is the 8th child. The seventh child was born with serious issues, never gained the mentality of a 6-month-old, and died when he was 21. But that child, when he was a baby, was easy to take care of because he was a baby and he changed babies' diapers. But then that child grew up to be 10 years old and he was still a baby and he still needed to have his diapers changed, and every bite of food that he ever took had to be put into his mouth for him. And the family with 7 other kids, well, this time there was still 6 other kids because Steve had to come along. The family was impacted because Mom was tied to that baby and couldn't go as she pleased. And a pastor saw all these kids playing in the yard. This is in the hills of Kentucky. The pastor saw all the kids, came by and said, "Hey, would it be okay if I brought the bus by and picked up your kids?" And she said, "No, I can't do that. I've got a child with a disability. And I don't send my kids to church, I take my kids." And the pastor said, "Well, how about if we work something out?" Back in the hills of Kentucky, a little church of probably 50 or 75 people, they made arrangements so that one of the ladies could come in and sit with Buddy so that Steve's mom could come to church and bring her kids to church. Big idea, just started out small and made a great impact on that family.
Let me show you this, and we'll come back around. Talk about strolling, and this is sort of managing the two. I'll get more on this on my calendar. This is something that, well, you might found it for years, but I just want to show you something we also do here. My son.
It doesn't have sound, and I'm not the technological person, and so I'll get Sam later on. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's the videotape of 2 kids, and they're just talking about how hard it is in class when they're at school, and the teacher gives instructions. Carrie, if you want to look at it, you're welcome to. The teacher gives instructions to the class, and about the time that that student is ready to understand what the teacher was talking about and ready to participate, the teacher's already moved on to something else. Carrie's going to fool around just a minute, see if he can get sound. If he can, that's great. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Carrie, if you get that, just let me know. I don't have it. Okay, we don't have the technological abilities at this point, and I do apologize. Okay. One of the ways, if you have children in your classroom, to make their ability to function and to learn a truly good thing in your Sunday school class so that they can really go away having learned something, and so that you can go home with your hair still attached to your head and not turned any more gray than it already is, okay? One of the ways to do that, to help get that in place, is to make sure that you have an effective classroom. If you have things that are interesting for the kids to do, if they come in and there's really not much going on and you're not prepared, well, they're going to take over. I guarantee it. Okay? So what are some things that we can do to have effective classrooms? We need to recognize, first of all, that most students with special needs are going to be part of just the regular classroom with no assistance. They're just going to be in there with the rest of the group. Okay? You might not even realize that these kids have special needs. You might not even realize that they've been identified, that at school they get extra help. Okay? Now, some of them you will know there's something going on. Some of them can't hardly sit still, and you wonder, is there something going on? Okay? So what are some things we can do? Keys for success. Have creative lessons. One of the reasons I'm moving over here and talking to you, one of the reasons I'm moving over here and talking to you, one of the reasons I move over here and talk to you is to try to keep your attention. It'd be a shame for adults to fall asleep on me. That'd be really bad. The reason that Christina has the vote thing for you and the involvement with the 2 people was because she's getting you involved and you really took ownership of what was going on in class at that time. You might not remember anything I say today unless you get out the notes and say, oh, yeah, I remember that. But the thing with the vote, you're going to remember that. That's something you do, you're going to remember. So make your your lessons interesting. Also, a thing we call chunking. The PowerPoint is something for you to look at. I'm something for you to look at. I talk about the families. We've moved on and we talked about facts. I read you the story about Holland, different things. We did the boat. I didn't just stand there and go, wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, wah, wah. Chunking means you do things in like 5 to 8 minute increments. Do something different. It doesn't mean that you have to do a song and dance this time and then you do puppets the next time. Just different things as you're going along. It helps keep the kids' attention. Our kids are at home watching TV, playing video games, and it's different stuff going on. Okay? If they come into your class and you're Charlie Brown's teacher, you're going to lose them and they're going to take over. And they're not going to learn. Get the students involved. Make it relevant to their lives. Boys and girls, you know, it's hard for me to pay my taxes. But I'm an honest person, so I pay my taxes. And they're sitting there saying, taxes? What's taxes? Okay? It's not relevant to them. Well, I was at the store the other day and I wanted to buy a pack of bubble gum. Didn't you buy a pack of bubble gum? Well, they understand bubble gum. They understand video games. Make it relevant to them. It's not about me. It's about them. It's not about my music. It's about them. This stuff, well, that's fun, but it's not my music. Okay? It's about them. What's going to get them? What's going to have them listening? What's going to have them going to home and singing it in their bedroom in front of the mirror? And they're singing about Jesus. Right? Okay, much better than repeating the MTV words that many of them go home and watch. Make it applicable. Make it something that they can actually use in their lives at that time. Don't just teach over their heads philosophy and doctrine. Give them something that they can use that they'll home and think about, lay in bed at night and say, oh, I could have done, or tomorrow I will do, and this is what's going to happen, and Jesus, help me to do this. Make it something that they can apply to their lives. When you are teaching, if you're teaching children, they need time to process. If I'm teaching adults, you need time to process. I'm not talking as fast as I could talk. Okay? You notice I said I'm not talking as fast as I could talk. Okay? Paused. That little pause right there, it's called wait time. Or if I ask you a question, and I wait. How many of you, I'm trying to think of a question. Right now it's wait time for my brain to catch up.
How many didn't get enough sleep?
Pause time. Okay. I can't even think of a question. How many of you can name, okay, I was studying the continents with my kids. How many of you can name the 7 continents? I'm asking you all. How many of you can name the 7 continents? Now I immediately saw hands doing this, this, this. And I could have said, tell me, because she raised her hand. But you all didn't raise your hand yet. I'm giving you all time to think, to process what I just said.
And figure out where you know.
Yes, 7 continents. What's a continent? Kentucky? You laugh. You laugh. Okay? But is Kentucky a continent? No, I'm sorry, honey. Kentucky's not a continent. It's a state. Remember we talked about that? Yes. Yeah. So I gave you some time to think about it. And then when everybody has had a chance to think, that's wait time, then you're able to call on somebody. If you know how you have a student that really has issues about finding the correct answer, you might signal them when they're going to give the next answer so that they can know this is going to be mine, I want to give this answer, and they can look very smart for their friends. But let them know quietly. Don't make a point of pointing at them saying, sweetheart, you get the next one, okay? Okay? Quietly aside, sweetheart, I'm going to let you do the next one. You do that. Okay? Have fun. Enjoy yourself. You know, it's not all about standing up there lecturing. Have fun. What time were we supposed to be finished? 5 minutes ago? Recognize that all of us have different gifts. I was sitting over there doing my last minute preparation that I should have done at home and I forgot about, and I heard somebody over here saying I'm a visual learner. Do you remember who that was? You're a visual learner. I'm a visual learner. My husband gets, raise your hand if you're a visual learner. Hands down. Raise your hand if you're auditory. One person is able to understand what I'm talking about today, because most of the time all I've been doing is talking. Everybody else is going, my hand's up. I'm a visual learner. My husband comes in with something, he says, let me read this to you. And I'm like, let me read it. I've got to read it. It helps me. We have different ways that we are really good in also. Our multiple intelligences. There's several listed, and there's also some more that they're arguing about should be part of it. But maybe you're better at visualizing things. Maybe you're better at verbalizing things, learning verbally or doing things verbally. Logical, mathematical, that is so not me. Bodily kinesthetic. Well, if you saw me doing the thing with Ronnie, you know that's not me either. Musical, interpersonal, you're able to relate with people. You know somebody that really, they just can talk to you and talk and not a problem at all, okay? They're very good at that. Or somebody that's intrapersonal, they really understand their feelings and their emotions and what's going on. So there's different ways that we can show our intelligence. It doesn't all have to be with a test, an ABCD, and it's correct or it's not. Okay, there's many different ways to show us something. So recognize that as you're teaching. I like direct instruction in classrooms, study school. In my classroom especially, I use direct instruction. I make sure that my students are highly engaged in everything that I'm doing. And you need to do that with your classes. Make sure that they're highly engaged. They're involved. They're not sitting over there off to themselves. Give them lots of opportunity to respond back to you. And give them immediate positive feedback. If I just say, good boy, good job, they're like, well, what did I do good? That was really good when you were reading that verse with her. I really appreciate that was really good. Instead of just good job, because I've specifically told them exactly what they did do good. So tell your kids exactly what they did do good. And they'll take that in and they'll hopefully continue to repeat that. I'm sorry, am I done? No. Oh, I still have 5 minutes? Oh, goody, goody. Oh, you're all right. You're all right. Let me see where I am. I've lost my notes. Oh, different learning styles. We talked about visual. We talked about auditory. There's also kinesthetic. Let your kids get up and move around. Puppets, acting out, music. Now, should I come in Sunday and say, today we're going to do a visual lesson? Next Sunday we're going to do auditory. Next Sunday we're going to be kinesthetic. No. Take all those things every week to meet all the needs of your students. Now, you know, sometimes your lessons are going to be more of this, and sometimes they're going to be more of this, but at least try to hit them periodically, all the time, okay? To meet the needs of all the students, just like in here. Was everybody in here that raised their hand, they were visual? We had one lone auditory back there. So meet the needs of
didn't know what she was.
and several that didn't know what they were. Like, I don't know what I am. Maybe you're a good mixture of everything. Meet the needs of all of your students. So there are different learning styles. Make sure you're doing that. Engaging lessons. That's kind of repetition. Also, as far as behavior goes, consistent expectations. You've got to let your class know what you expect of them. You're all adults. I expect you to come in and sit down quietly and listen to me and try not to be, too disruptive. But children, many times they come to school or to Sunday school and they do not have those guidelines. They don't understand. You've got to tell them what the guidelines are. If you don't tell them to sit down and be quiet while I'm listening and they don't, well, whose fault is that? You've not told them. Now, many kids need to be told over and over again. When I taught 8th grade, we reviewed the rules all the time, all the way to the end of the year. Why? Because the brains were in the brain bucket at the front door, and I needed to keep doing that. Same thing with little children. You got to remind them over and over again of the rules, because they do forget, sometimes on accident, sometimes on purpose. Oops, I forgot. I'm not supposed to chew gum in school. They know that, but you just remind them. Okay? So tell them, and have your classroom management make it consistently exactly what you expect, and tell them this is what I expect. If you don't tell them, they're not going to know. simple rules. And make sure it's a loving environment. Last thing I'm going to talk about is something that one of you brought up, a buddy for special needs. Since we've only got 5 minutes left, and I really wanted you to be able to ask some questions. I went to a church, I've got a friend that goes to church in Cincinnati. Her son has Asperger's. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Asperger's. Very good. It's a form of autism. And her son has the Asperger's that lends itself toward the more violent outbursts and many sensory issues going on with him. She's a Christian lady and she wants to go to church. But her son, who can feel overwhelmed with crowds, can feel overwhelmed with sound, has issues with that. Her church has met his need. They have what they call a buddy system. I visited the church and I observed what they were doing. A buddy is a volunteer who prayerfully agrees to assist a child with special needs. Do all children with special needs need a buddy? No. Okay? So you got to think that out. What's the person like? They need to meet all of these qualifications along with anything else that you might think of. And it's simply somebody that might go in and sit with that child, and if the music's too loud and they can tell that the child needs to go out, they go out. You know that the child is attended by somebody else. They're not just going out wandering in hallways. So their needs are being met. When the music is done, the buddy and the child will just walk back in, blend back in properly. The person needs to be faithful to the church. They need to be understanding of what the child is going through. Do they have to be a trained, master degree person in whatever it is this child has? No. Just someone that's willing to learn. Buddy system. It's just very simple. Okay? I've got one more story I want to tell you about that really hit me. This person was born with a life-threatening condition known as cystic hygroma. It's a birth defect down the neck. I told you she was there. The mass was on as threatens to close the airway and often causes bone structure of the skull and teeth to develop incorrectly. The doctors misdiagnosed the lump, allowed it to grow into a baseball-sized lump on the throat. Surgery seemed successful. Then the tongue began to swell out of the mouth. During the surgery, they removed some of the lymph nodes. Consequently, the remaining lymph nodes was forced to secrete an infection into his tongue. Fluid oozed from the mouth that turned black when it encountered air. The enlarged tongue made speech development torturous. 7 tongue surgeries carved his tongue into a stub, creating a whole new set of problems. Voice was slurred, speech was slurred, tongue again draped. Black oozing stuff came out of his mouth. Target for teasing in school and Sunday school. Who was this person? Because of the influence of his church and his mother took him there. He grew up to be Frank Peretti, author of Christian fiction. Anybody ever heard of Frank Peretti? Okay. Never heard this story until just recently when I read it in that book. We can make an impact in the lives of our children if we're only ready and willing and ask Jesus to help us. Okay? Who knows what child you might be dealing with at your church. And I apologize for taking so long. I hope to open it up to questions, but I know we're going to have our next session fairly quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all very much. Thank you, Christina. Oh, wait.